Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're not just going to learn grammar. No, we're going to become architects of perfect sentences. And our main tools, gerunds and infinitives. Let's start building. Okay, let's kick things off with a classic. You've probably run into this one. She suggested to go to the cinema, or is it going to the cinema? One of them just sounds a little off, right? Like a picture that's hanging just slightly crooked. Well, by the end of this, you won't just know the answer, you'll get why it's the answer. You'll have the blueprint. So what we're really looking at here are the blueprints for three core pieces of any sense. You've got the gerund, the infinitive, and something called the bare infinitive. Just think of them as essential parts in your sentence-building toolkit. Each one has a very specific job, a specific place, it just fits. First up on the blueprint is our foundation piece, the gerund. And as we go, you'll notice it's color-coded in orange, which should make things a little easier to follow. So let's lay this foundation and see how it works. So what exactly is a gerund? It's basically a verb that's moonlighting as a noun. You take a verb like swim or read, you tack on ing, and boom, it's no longer just an action. It becomes a thing you can talk about, like a subject or an object in your sentence. Okay, specification number one. This is maybe the most fundamental rule for the gerund. If you see a preposition, those little words like in, for, at, about, the verb that comes right after it, it's almost always going to be in that ing gerund form. This is a big one, a real cornerstone of the blueprint. And you can see this rule in action right here. It's crystal clear. Look at he is good at. What comes next? Painting. She is interested in. Boom, learning. Thank you for coming. After, finishing. See, those prepositions at, in, for, after, they're like giant flashing signs telling you a gerund is coming up next. It's a rule you can really rely on.
But wait, there's more. It's not just prepositions that call for a gerund. There's a whole category of specific verbs that act like special connectors that only fit with an ing piece. A really handy way to remember them is to group them up. So you've got your starting and stopping verbs, like finish. Then you have verbs of consideration, like suggest. And, of course, verbs that talk about feelings, enjoy, hate, love. They all want a gerund right after them.
All right, let's get a little more advanced with our blueprint. Sometimes the gerund teams up with another noun to create a whole new idea, what we call a compound noun. And the key thing to get here is that the ing word isn't the main action anymore. It's more like a label describing the type of thing we're talking about. Just look at these examples and it'll click. Take swimming pool. Are we talking about someone swimming right now? Nope. The main thing is the pool. The word swimming just tells us what kind of pool it is. Same deal with a driving lesson. It's a lesson about driving. And with things like problem solving, those two words have basically fused together to mean one single activity. Okay, foundation is laid. Now let's move on to the next major component in our blueprint, the infinitive. This is our blue-coded piece, and you can think of it as the main framework for a whole different style of sentence. Now this one you probably recognize instantly. It's that classic to plus the base form of the verb. To run, to see, to build. And it's really the workhorse for explaining the purpose or the reason behind an action. If someone asks, why did you stop the car? You'd say, to get gas. That's the infinitive doing its job. All right, first specification for the infinitive. And this one's a really straightforward one. Anytime you use an adjective, a describing word, like important, happy, or impossible, the verb that follows it needs to be an infinitive. It's a really strong connection. And you can see the pattern so clearly in these examples. It is important to do what? To be on time. I'm happy. Why? To help you. The adjective kind of sets the stage, and the infinitive comes in to explain the action connected to that feeling or state. The adjective is basically your cue. Here's another one that's just as clear-cut. See a WH question word? What, where, how, when? The verb form that follows is going to be the infinitive. Think about it. You say things like, I don't know what to do, or can you tell me how to get there? It's a super common and reliable pattern. Okay, now for an interesting wrinkle in the blueprint. Some pieces are actually flexible. There are certain connector verbs that are kind of like universal joints. They can connect to either a gerund or an infinitive, and the meaning barely changes at all. You can say, I love swimming or I love to swim. Both are perfectly fine. All right, time for our final piece of the puzzle. This one's the most specialized component in the whole kit, the bare infinitive. This is our green-coded section, and you should really think of these as special custom fittings. They only work in very specific designated spots. So what is a bare infinitive? It's just the verb, the simplest, most basic form. No to in front of it, no ing at the end, just the verb. But don't let its simplicity fool you. Like I said, it's a special fitting, so you can't just drop it in anywhere. It has very strict rules. And here is specification number 1, the absolute biggest rule for the bare infinitive. After any modal verb, and you know these guys, can, should, will, must, may, you always use the bare infinitive. You never ever put to after them. You say you must go, not you must to go. That one is a non-negotiable hard and fast rule in the blueprint. And here's a really cool, kind of unique one. When you use the word why to make a suggestion, so you're not actually asking for a reason, you're suggesting an action, it's always followed by the bare infinitive. Like in this example, why wait until tomorrow? You're not asking for the reason for waiting, you're suggesting not to wait. Okay, our second specification for this piece. This one applies to a small but super common group of verbs. We're talking about verbs of perception, things you do with your senses like hear, see, watch, and also verbs of permission or causation, like make and let. And you can really feel the pattern here, can't you? I heard him shout. They made me wait. She won't let me go. You see? There is no to getting in the way. It's like the connection is immediate and direct. You hear someone do something. You let someone do something. Simple as that. All right, we've gone over the foundation, the framework, and the special fittings. We've looked at all the individual parts. So now let's zoom out and look at the complete master blueprint. This is where you'll see how everything snaps together. And there you have it, the whole system on one page. This is your master blueprint, your cheat sheet. When you see a preposition, you think orange, gerund. When you see an adjective, you think blue, infinitive. And when you see a modal verb like can or should, you think green, bare infinitive. It's about understanding the core logic so you can build a perfect sentence every time. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that grammar isn't just a bunch of random, frustrating rules. It's a logical system. It's a blueprint. And let's go all the way back to that first question. She suggested to go or going. Well, now you know why. Suggest is one of those verbs of consideration on our orange blueprint, right? So it needs a gerund. It has to be going. Now that you have the plans, what's the first sentence you're going to build?